Hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant, and in this Google Ads tutorial, we're going to be going through how to get up and running with your first Google search or display campaign in less than 20 minutes. So we're going to be going through how to choose what to advertise, we're going to go through how to figure out your targeting and your messaging, and then at the end, we'll dive into my screen and I'll walk you through click by click everything you need to know to getting up and running properly with your first Google Ads campaign. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we do a lot of in-depth tutorials just like this one on how to be successful with your digital marketing. There's also a timestamp table of contents in the description because you'll inevitably need to come back to this video as you do your keyword research and putting together your campaign. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. There are 3 keys to success I want you to know before we dive into the 4 steps to creating your first campaign. Now, the first key to success is to choose one campaign to start. We're going to go through a lot of different options, and there are a lot of different things that you can do with Google Ads, but the key to success is starting with just one. And the second key to success with your one campaign is just having 3 to 4 ad groups max. We don't want a bunch of targeting options because, as we'll get into later in this video, the more targeting options you have, the longer it's going to take for you to actually figure out what is working and what isn't working. And finally, the third key to success is to protect your wallet, and that is please set an end date. Something I used to do in the past is say don't set end dates, but after a lot of feedback and seeing students' accounts, it's a very good idea to set an end date for every campaign that you start. That way you never have to worry about going back to Google Ads to turn off your campaigns or your budget just running wild, because Google is very unapologetic when it comes to how much has been spent with an ad account. They're definitely not going to give you a refund. So with those 3 keys to success, let's go ahead and dive into step number 1 of setting up your first Google Ads campaign, and that is choosing your product or service. Something that's very important to understand with Google advertising is Google advertising is primarily a lead generation platform. It is not a sales advertising platform. The days where you could just put up some Google Ads and drive people directly to a sales page or product page and expect them to buy on the first visit are pretty much over. The only asterisk to that one is e-commerce. We still see quite a few clients of ours be successful with cold traffic from Google Ads, but those are few and far in between. Pretty much for the rest of us, we really need to focus on generating leads, growing an email list, and then having our emails, our sales calls, or our sales presentations and letters do the selling for us. So just keep that in mind. With whatever product or service you choose to advertise, there should be some sort of lead generation portion in front of it. So this can be a lead magnet, like a Excel sheet, a PDF, a blueprint. It can even be a webinar, or if you just have a couple of emails that deliver a bunch of value, you can offer a free, 5 or 7 day email course. Whatever it is, it should be something that's free, that's some sort of lead magnet to get people to give you their name and email. If you need the phone number, you can ask for it. General rule of thumb, the more information you ask for in your landing page, the worse the landing page is going to perform. So what's just important with this first step is you realize that Google Ads is a lead generation platform, and we really should be focusing on one product or service that we're trying to generate leads for. So once we've done that, it's time to decide what type of campaign we're going to run. So when it comes to Google Ads, you have 2 options. You have search ads and you have display ads. Now, display ads are very different than search ads. Display ads include everything that those little ads you see on the side. They include banners across the entire web, news sites and blogs. It also includes Gmail ads and YouTube ads. And then we have good old steady search, which is where Google started, where those are the 3 to 4 ads you see whenever you type a search into Google. Now, search ads are a lot easier to optimize than display ads. However, if you're not going to be spending at least $500 a month on your Google Ads, I highly recommend you go the display advertising route because you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck, and you're going to be able to get enough impressions and clicks to make actionable decisions. If you only have $500 and you go the search ads route, well, yeah, you'll still run some search ads, but your impressions are going to be super low. That's the number of time your ads show up, and your clicks are going to be so low, you're not going to know which ad or which keyword is actually working. So because you need at least 100, if not 1,000 clicks on something before you know something's working, and your $500 is probably only going to get you a few hundred clicks across your entire account. amount. So we really want to make sure that we're doing one campaign, one product, we're focusing down, and if it's less than $500, let's go ahead and do a display campaign instead of a search. But I'm gonna go through how to do both of these. So now that you've made those two really important decisions, what product and what type of campaign, it's time to actually go into the targeting. So I'm gonna go into the targeting for search, and then I'm gonna go into the targeting for display. Now display is gonna be a lot easier than search, as you'll see in a second. Remember, timestamp table of contents to skip around. So with search ads, I actually have an in-depth tutorial on how to use Google Keywords Planner in the description, so you can check that out. Here, I'm just going to give you a list of keywords to start with, because keyword research is something that can take hours, if not days. But what's really important here is I want you to get into the game as quickly as possible. And to do that, we're just gonna give you the answer. And since I recommend starting with 3 ad groups, you're gonna choose 3 of these groups. And of course, you're more than welcome to come up with some on your own. So the first group is buy. And we're just gonna say buy and then your product or service. Now, the buy and new and sale are great for e-commerce style products. So these first 3 are really based on products versus services. And then the last 2, product, you can have an ad group where it just says your product name. And then for location, if it's specific, you're a local business, then you're gonna wanna put your product or service and then your location. And really, that is it. I know it seems oversimplification. You're gonna be like, Jason, what the heck? Are you trying to waste my money? No. What's really great about these keywords is that with a couple $100s on search, you're gonna start to see which ones are working and which ones aren't. And as you become more advanced, you're going to be able to use something called the search terms report. And that is, Google is going to show you what your prospects are actually typing in. So these are just a way to figure out what keywords you should be going after, because you can do a lot of keyword research and then find out it was completely wrong. So let's not invest all that time right now. Let's use this basic list of keywords, and then we'll use our search terms report, which is something Google gives you for free after you've run a couple $100s in traffic. And that report will tell you the specific keywords to go research more, the specific keywords to add to your campaigns to improve your results. And if you're doing display advertising, it's even easier. And this is we'll get into when we're diving into our screen, but I'll jump ahead here and show you all you have to do is go through the usual process of setting up a campaign. We're just gonna select display, and then Google actually has a set of audiences that are already done and ready for you. So all we have to do is click on something called in-market audiences. They give you topics and demographics and affinity. We're gonna ignore all that other stuff. That's fancy, we don't need to do that yet. In-market audiences are groups of people Google has identified are actively looking to buy something. So this is going to be the more expensive audiences, but it's also going to be the easier audiences to test. The other ones can be so big or so broad that unless we've already figured out our messaging and already dialed in our landing pages and sales pages, we can wind up wasting a lot of money. So we're going to focus on these in-market audiences of people who are actively looking to buy whatever you are selling. There are a lot. So all you have to do is scroll through that list and just check the box on each one you think is going to be somewhat relevant to whatever your product or service is. And here you really want to focus in on 3 to 5 max, because what's going to happen while you start running your campaigns, Google's going to find one that works better than the others, and then it's going to start putting your entire budget towards that one. And so this is something you'll have to do in the future. You're going to have to make an individual ad group for each one of these so you can easily tell Google, hey, stop spending all my money here. I want to know how these other ones are doing. So 3 to 4, that's good. And it'll ensure that your budget isn't stretched too thin, and it will help you stay on top of your ad spend so Google doesn't run off with just one in-market audience and not give any impressions to any of the other ones. So now that you've done that, you're ready for the hardest part, which is writing your ads. And this process is going to apply whether you're doing search or you're doing display. All we need to do is type our product or service in, or type one of those buyer keywords that we talked about earlier into Google in incognito if you're using Chrome, private browsing if you're using Firefox. We don't want any cookies involved in the ads that we're looking at, so it does need to be private browsing mode. We type that into Google, and then we just take a look at the top search results. And what you're looking for here is to figure out what other advertisers are already talking about in their ads. So you're looking for what are the benefits they're talking about, what are the features they're talking about, what kind of specials are they offering, is there anything that you could offer that's better than what they're talking about want in their ad, and then go ahead and make your own. So here's a quick rundown of what you have to work with your Google Ads. You're going to have 2 headlines, and each headline can be 30 characters, and this is just where you're going to either use your search term, some variation of your product name, or something to draw attention to the potential prospect. Then we have the description, and the description is going to be 80 characters, and the description should pretty much just follow up on whatever the headline was and tell people why they should buy. So 90% of the work should be done by the headline, and then the description is just there to kind of support the headline. I definitely recommend trying 5 to 6 different headlines, and you can just have 1 or 2 different descriptions. Hardly anyone's reading the descriptions anymore. And then we have the URLs. Now this is a super underutilized piece of real estate you have with your ads. So in your URLs, you have 15 characters, and what you can do here is add a sense of urgency. So with your URLs, they don't have to match what's on your site. So you can put things like sale, limited time, free consultation, free trial or something like that to help to get people to actually click on your ad. And this process is going to be the most creative part. There's no hard and fast rules here. You really have to let the Google data come in and tell you which ads are working and which ones aren't. So you just need to start off with 3 to 4 different ad variations, and then you'll just test from there. The key takeaway here is the ad copy is something you're always going to be testing. It's never done. You're always going to have to continue to change your ad copy and figure out how to better connect with potential customers and prospects. So with that, we've gone through our 4 steps. Now let's go ahead and jump into my screen, and I'll walk you through what it looks like putting together your campaign. Now inside of our Google Ads account, we're going to click on campaigns so that we get this giant blue plus button in the top left-hand corner, and we're going to go ahead and click on new campaign. Now, if you are already very specific on what you want, we could go ahead and select one of these. I'm just going to go ahead and click campaign without goal. I always like having more control, and I'm going to click on search. So here's where you're going to decide whether you're doing search or you're doing display. What's very important is whichever one you choose, you only do that type of advertising inside of that campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and click on search here, since display is going to be a little easier. And we're just going to go ahead and click continue. Go ahead and give our campaign a name here, PPC management. And you see, this is where if you select search, it's going to give you the option to do display as well. We're not going to do that. We do not want display. So we're going to uncheck that, and we're going to go ahead and click show more settings. And this is where we're going to set our end date. So if we're going to be doing this for a week, I'd come in here, select the end date, and say, we're going to do this, and it's going to go to, maybe we'll do 2 weeks for this one. But this is a great way to make sure that our budget doesn't go over, because Google will just keep spending that money. And we'll go ahead and leave URL and dynamic ads alone for now. Locations. Now, if you're a local-based business, you're only doing business in your state, a specific neighborhood, city, or zip code, this is really where you want to zero in on the zip code, the neighborhoods, or the cities that you want to target. Now, typically what I like to do, because we manage a lot of different types of accounts, if whatever the largest geographical region you're focused on, enter that as your targeting, and then add all of the sub-targeting that can go inside of there. For example, if you're in the US, you can target a specific state, and then you target all the zip codes inside of that state, and then you'd also target the major cities or major neighborhoods. That way, you have a lot of overlapping targeting, and as time goes on, you're going to be able to figure out which cities, zip codes, and neighborhoods perform the best. Of course, if you're in a different country, you can still focus on different provinces or territories. You can apply the same type of location targeting here. Languages, typically, I just leave it at the language of the country that the client is for. And next we have audiences. So audiences, this is where if you're doing display, right? So we're setting up a search campaign right now, but if you're doing display, you're going to want to click on audiences, and then you're going to click on this in market. So when we click on in market, you're going to see all of these different options. And there are a lot of drop-down menus here where you can really, really get customized here and see all of these different ones. I mean, this goes on forever, but hey, it's Google. They track everything. They look at everyone, so they know what's up. They know what's going on. And there are just so many different options here. Dating services. I didn't mean to click that. We're going to X that out. So in this particular instance, since I'm doing PPC management, I would come in here to business services, click on advertising and marketing, and I would check this box, and I would check this box. And then I do some more research. I won't waste our time now to come up with a couple others. But those are the two that I would check in this particular instance if this was a display campaign. Of course, we're doing a search, but I'm just showing you what that would look like for display. And leaving it at the default is fine. Used to be bid only. We don't really need to worry about that right now. Budget, this is the budget that we're going to set each day. Let's just say we're spending $10 a day. And delivery method, we'd leave it at standard. Accelerated just means they spend your money faster. It's not really going to help you collect better data. You want data that's going to show you over a period of time as opposed to what happened on Monday or Tuesday or whenever you start this campaign. And when it comes to how you bid, you actually want to bid cost per click. And the reason you want to bid clicks is because if you're doing this for the first time, you don't know what your conversion rate is. You don't know who's going to be converting. Once you have conversions, then it makes sense to optimize for conversions. We're just going to start at the standard $2 per click since we're doing search. And under show more options, you're going to have the ability to add an ad schedule, which I recommend even if you're doing it all hours of the day, and then an ad rotation. I typically just leave this alone for now. You can select rotate ads indefinitely, but please only do this if you actually plan on checking your account at least every other day. If you're busy with other things in your business, just leave it on optimize. It's not ideal. We personally always click do not optimize, but that's because we're in our accounts and our client accounts every single day of the week. If you're not going to be in here almost at least every other day, just leave it at optimize. Ad extensions, we're going to leave those alone because that's not necessary for our initial search. So as we click save and continue, we're finally going to be able to drop in our list of keywords. So I'd go ahead and paste them in here, and then I'd give the ad group a name. So I'm going to call this buy, and then the product. That would be the product name. And once we've pasted these in, what we can actually do is copy them again. We're going to and click enter a couple times, and then you'll see down here there are different types of keywords. So we can actually have broad match, phrase match, and exact match. And really all this is telling Google how specific the search needs to be in order for your ad to show up. Broad means Google's going to match your keyword to a bunch of other keywords, and then phrase match, they're looking for just keywords that include the keywords, and then exact is the exact keyword search that you have here. So what you're what you're going to want to do is come in here and put parentheses around all of your keywords. Now, obviously, in your example, when you're doing this, you're not going to have product in brackets because that's actually going to throw Google off quite a bit. And then we'd come down and one more time, Control V again, and then we'd put the entire keyword phrase in brackets. Of course, product wouldn't be in brackets, right? And we do that for all of these. And then once we're done, we're going to go ahead and click add a new ad group and paste in our next set of ads, or not ads, next set of keywords, and then do the exact same thing. So we do parentheses, phrases here, phrase match there, and then we'd go ahead and, on the last two, that wasn't phrase match. There we go. Quotations, not parentheses, and then we'll do brackets for everything else, right? So we'd go ahead and do that at least 3, if not 4 times, and then we can go ahead and click save and continue. And the final step of our process is actually creating our ads. So hopefully you already have some ad copy ideas based upon searching your search terms into Google. So we'd go ahead and first start by pasting the final URL. So this is the page that you actually want people to come to. We'll enter our headline 1 and 2. And actually what I forgot to include in the beginning is you can have a headline 3. This is something Google's testing at the time of this video. And then you can go ahead and put your URL path. So what's really cool about these, again, let's say we do limited time offer, right? Something like that. You can see it comes up example.com limited time offer. So it's a great use of real estate, and you don't have to actually change the URL that you're using. This will just go on the back end of whatever your actual website is. We have our description lines here, 90 each, And then we go ahead and add our URL options if we're doing any custom tracking, which you're probably not. And once you've done this, you can click add new ad, and you'll do this for each one of your ad groups, right? So I did 2 ad groups here, so I would go ahead and do this twice, and then we'd go ahead and click save and continue, and we'd be ready to create our campaign. So I'm going to X out of this and go over to a campaign that I already put together. And inside of our campaign, you'll see the 3 ad groups that we created. You can set your default cost per click. I'm going to go ahead and click into AdWords Management Services, and you see this ad group wound up just having 2, and I typed exactly in what the services is. Again, I made this campaign in the exact same way we just went through. And with that, you are all set up and ready to go. Now, another quick bonus tip right here. I know this is a bit of a long tutorial. Let's go ahead and I mentioned earlier that you're actually going to be able to use something called a search terms report when you've started to run some ads. So once your ads have run for a good week or so, you spend a couple $100s, you can come in here, you can click on keywords, and then you can click on this thing up here called search terms, and this is going to list all of the keywords that you've actually showed up for. And this is where you're going to get the best keyword ideas ever. So we've started with a small kind of templated set of keywords, and this report is going to populate and show you the keywords that you can add to future campaigns, future ad groups for optimization. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video informative and actionable. If you got some value out of this video, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth Google Ads tutorials and other advertising platform tutorials just like this one over on the channel. I'm showing you everything you need to know to be successful with your digital marketing. And of course, Google Ads is just one piece of your digital marketing success and efforts. So go ahead and comment below if you have any questions. Remember, there's a timestamp table of contents along with links to other videos and playlists to help you get up and running with YouTube ads, Google ads, and Facebook ads as well. So until the next video, hit that like button, subscribe, and keep building the business you love.